Well, look, good news to talk about. Well, we say good news. We're getting excited that inflation's 7.9%. The point is this. We're headed in the right direction. It's a good fall. Isn't it time to tap the Bank of England on the shoulder and say, enough paying, forget about raising interest rates again?
Well, as you say, yes, still, of course, prices are still going up 7.9%. We should never forget that. But it is a good fall, as you say, from 11.1 at its peak. So we're making progress and the plan's working. But I have to say, Eamon, I'm a firm believer in leaving the Bank of England to independently make these decisions. That's the job we task them with. We ask them to target 2% inflation. They've clearly got some way to go. I think we should leave it to them to decide on how they get us there. But of course, the government's trying to help by doing the things that we've been doing, capping energy prices this last winter with the energy price guarantee and saving families about £1,500 on what they would have been paying on their energy bills has all been part of keeping a cap on inflation.
But we do still, you could say, have an inflation problem in this country. I mean, you'll have heard Liam Halligan telling us just before about the situation in Europe, 5.5% there. And in the States, an enviable 3%. We're some way off either of those. And, of course, the Prime Minister's pledging to halve it by the end of the year.
Yeah, so, I mean, first of all, I haven't looked since the new numbers come out, but even with the previous month's number, May's number, there were 9, I calculate, EU countries with higher inflation. So we weren't in a completely unique position. But our inflation has been higher. And it's really a combination of the fact that we have very low unemployment. So we have very tight labour markets, very few additional people that you can get into the labour market, not least because we've got record number of the people employed, which is very good news, of course. But it does mean it's harder to get inflation down because just finding more people to do the job is not something which has been available to us. We've got to increase our productivity. And that's what the government's been working on, bringing more people who are out of the labour market into it, perhaps who stopped working during COVID. And we set out plans and we've been quite successful in doing that. And some of that is helping to relieve the pressure on inflation now.
Well, look, you've been trying to do your bit. You've had words with the supermarket and the petrol station bosses to say, this overcharging, we're on to you, we know what you're doing, cut it out, stop it. What sort of reaction did you get from them?
Well, I'm pleased to say that they all agreed that they would sign up to this voluntary supply of data. Now, that's important because it means that we're going to be able to publish in real time the cost of petrol at different petrol stations, something which is not available currently or only partially available. That's important. I've also told them, though, we do intend to legislate to make it the law that they have to share that information. I've no objection of them. They can charge what they like, but people should be able to know what they're charging and find that out easily. And unlike, say, an airline ticket where you could look it up online, that's not been possible before with petrol prices, and that is what is going to change. So we'll help to force that down. I have to say also our energy approach to bringing down not just the fuel prices at the petrol pumps, but also household energy bills, which dropped by an average of £426 a year from the beginning of this month, is starting to work. And it's one of the reasons today we've won this huge gigafactory investment. This is the country's largest ever car production investment that we've ever seen. It really puts the UK in the fast lane of electric vehicle production. And I'm very proud that we've brought that to the UK with all the jobs it will bring. Part of that is because of the lower energy bills that we're able to project.
And the other part of that is a hefty government subsidy. Would you care to tell us how much the taxpayer has helped to sweeten and incentivise Tata Jaguar Land Rover to come and put this plant in Bridgewater in Somerset?
Yes, and I make no sort of, I won't dodge that at all. I make no apology. It is true that not just Jaguar Land Rover, but through the Automotive Transformation Fund, other manufacturers, Nissan, for example, who are investing £1 billion in Sunderland, as Stellantis and Ellesmere Port, they all get access to this fund. Oh, I can't confirm the actual figures because it all comes out commercially in the usual way. But I can tell you that it wasn't just all about cash. It was also about our ability in R&D, for example, through the Faraday Battery Institute and our brilliant science in this country and skills, and tartar the investing companies' faith in the British economy and the way that this government is running the economy. Those are the things which have brought today 4,000 direct jobs and thousands of other indirect jobs through this deal.
Okay, that's good. We're glad to hear that. Minister, can you shed some light on these cruise ships that we're hearing that the government tried to dock a cruise ship in Liverpool, in Edinburgh, in London to house asylum seekers? And we're being told that the port authorities or whatever have turned them away and said, no, not for us. Could you shed some light on that as to what happens next and who has the authority? Why, for instance, does the Bibby Stockholm, why is it able to dock in Portland and in Dorset and yet not Edinburgh, not Liverpool, not London?
Yes, I'm not involved in the sort of detail of that. And as you say, the Stockholm, which is a different ship, has docked now, and it's going through final checks, and that will be able to take asylum seekers and house them appropriately. And I'm sure whatever the issues are, I'm afraid I'm not close to the detail on these other ships, will be resolved. But I think the most important point is this Conservative government is actually trying to fix the problem. We've actually passed a piece of legislation this week. 70 times Labour voted against it. They do not want to fix this problem. Fundamentally, they keep rejecting the legislation to do so, but we are insistent that the small boats must be stopped, and we're prepared to pass the legislation to do that. And things like sorting out the accommodation are one part of this much bigger picture of stopping illegal trafficking of people across the Channel.
Yeah, but Labour may want to stop it or not, as the case may be. But
they don't.
So does Edinburgh, so does Liverpool, so does the Port of London. We're just sort of saying who holds rank in this. I mean, why did Portland not say to you, clear off, you're not doing this in our backyard? Because people down there are not happy.
Well, look, I don't know the detail of the particular ships and what happened yesterday. What I do know is our determination to solve this problem, as demonstrated by having to defeat Labour 70 times plus in the House of Commons, and even more in the House of Lords, where Labour are also trying to defeat this bill, shows that we are the party, Conservatives are the only party who will actually, put our effort where our mouths are and try and stop these small boats. And actually we're having some success. For the first time ever, the number of small boats crossing is actually down. The number of people crossing is actually down this year. But no thanks to Sir Keir Starmer and Labour, who seem to be perfectly happy for this to continue. We will not put up with it. For example, we've returned more than 1,800 Albanian illegal migrants and foreign criminals since December this year, just as one example. And signed a deal with Albania to make sure we're not allowing people to come here from a country which is entirely free.
Yeah. And sorry to rush you, but we're always limited on time. And I just wanted to squeeze in one more question about what's making front page news this morning. And this is the mess up by, frankly, Coutts Bank in, first of all, claiming that Nigel Farage had his account closed because he didn't meet the threshold of affluence, 3 million, I think, and actually because his political beliefs didn't align with the bank's values. And I want to know whether or not you think the FCA, the Financial Conduct Authority, need to be looking into this. And, of course, the taxpayer have a stake in this, 39% ownership of NatWest Bank. A lot of people would be very alarmed by this, irrespective of politics.
I agree. It's absolutely unacceptable. I don't have to agree with everything that Nigel Farage says, or anything for that matter. It wouldn't make any difference. The idea that you should be unbanked because of your views, of your political views in a democratic system is outrageous and wrong. And I'm afraid it's not just Nigel Farage. For years now, under this thing called the politically exposed persons legislation, banks, and I'm afraid I think probably the FCA, have been allowing this to go on for far too long.
So what are you going to do about
it's entirely wrong. A lot of people who go into public service do so, and they should not have to expect for their bank accounts to be closed, or indeed, as often happens, for banks to refuse to open bank accounts. And it's not just Coutts, it's other banks as well. And actually for their families as well. To be put under absolute extraordinary measures by these banks, who sometimes want to know, your inside leg measurement before they'll open a bank account for the family of somebody who happens to be in public service. It's all unacceptable.
Unacceptable and outrageous, but people won't be reassured to hear you agree with them on that. The question is, will you put pressure on the FCA to look into this? Will you possibly look at legislation around it? What reassurance can you give to people that this won't happen to them?
My colleague, the Treasury Minister, Andrew Griffiths, is actually on this at the moment and proposing changes, and will be making a statement to Parliament about it, I know. It cannot be right that when people choose to go into public service, and regardless of their views, and I'd say I don't have to agree with Nigel Farage's views or Labour politicians' views or whoever, that is not the point. The point is people should be able to get banked, and there is no excuse for the banks not allowing those bank accounts to remain open. And by the way, often to refuse to open them in the first place. So the Financial Conduct Authority, the FCA, have a big role in this. Guidance for them was already changed in 2017. It's clear it's not working. And that is what I think this latest fuss will help resolve. And I know that Andrew Griffiths, who Minister, you may want to get on the programme, will be explaining to Parliament the further measures that will be taken.
Well, it is enraging a lot of people. Before we say goodbye to you, I can't take my eyes off your Union Jack behind you there, Grant Shapps. I'm just curious, we were talking about a lot of naval matters. Is that a naval ensign? I was about to point out exactly that to you when you said the Union Jack. It is, in fact, the red ensign, which is the naval flag, which I'm particularly fond of, but I have others here as well. I have a Ukrainian flag, and there's a civil aviation flag, much lesser known than the Navy. I'm very pleased with myself. I spotted that. That's very good. That's very good.
I'm impressed. I'm extremely impressed.
Than Mr. Grant Shapps, indeed. Always very good with your flags. Thank you so much.